Welcome to Digication Scholars Conversations. I'm your host, Jeff Yan. In this episode, you will hear part 2 of my conversation with LaBore from University of Illinois Urbana, Champaign. More links and information about today's conversation can be found on Digication's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Full episodes of Digication Scholars Conversations can be found on YouTube or your favorite podcast app.
You are about to hear part 2 of our conversation with LaBore from University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. Please be sure to listen to our previous episode to hear part 1 of this conversation.
I was going to say that maybe jumping back again to ETexts. I mean, you had mentioned it very sort of lightly here that, we just built our own, this internal app. I mean, it's a big deal. I mean, ETexts is sort of, would it be right to describe ETexts as Illinois' sort of response / version of an OER, but texts, sort of digital text type of...
We've actually talked about using it for OERs, and that's been a recent discussion. I don't know if we'll, the thing about working at a large decentralized university is that there are things that are going on that involve certain people. And if you can get in with those people, then you can do things. And if you can't, then you kind of shut out of it in a way. And for instance, I think that if we don't find a way to use ETexts for an OER, we're kind of missing an opportunity, because we could be like showing off EText to the world. If we had an OER, if we had a couple of great OERs built in ETexts, people would see, oh, this is a great tool. I wonder if I can get, if I can publish a book on EText. I don't know that right now, I don't know that we have any. We have some texts that are written by people who are not in the university, that are things like training manuals and so forth. They're local people. They're state of Illinois people, but for the most part, I don't think we have anybody from like another university publishing in it. But I think it's possible. What I'm really more interested in. I'm sorry. It's okay.
I was going to say, for the parts that I have seen of ETexts, which I've been privileged to have seen some versions of it, it looks beautiful, and I could see as being an amazing OER platform at Illinois and well beyond.
Right. I think one of the one of the things that is similar about ePortfolios and why I feel that there's such good a match between eText and ePortfolio, is that they both allow me to exercise some creative direction around learning content. But the difference is that Digication is my being creative with Digication is in service of opening up that creative platform to the students, right? Whereas students can't build an eText, but they can, they do appreciate eText. I mean, we get a lot of good feedback on the eText offerings that we have. And one thing for students that's really important is that the eText books are way cheaper than the traditional textbook. So we're saving them a lot of money, and also ETexts was designed from the bottom up as accessible. So it has a very, very high accessibility rating, and as a result, it's just like it's no problem for instructors to build something in it, because they don't have to worry about getting in trouble for not having accessibility, in their learning materials. So
speaking of accessibility, why don't we talk a little bit about that? Well, first, I'd like to just disclose that um, Digication has been so fortunate to have been a partner with Illinois, with you and your team, with Mark Thompson and his team. And you can tell people about Mark more. But I want to just set the stage here. For the last several years, we've been meeting regularly. You've been giving us lots of help, lots of feedback, lots of different rounds of reviews of our applications, um, and um, and have vastly improved accessibility at Digication, which, by
Hmm.
the way, means it improved accessibility for Digication in all of our schools that use Digication. And in addition to that, you, as a school, not only has the accessibility expertise in house to do the accessibility work, but you're also teaching it. So at this point, our engineers are applying and have taken classes now from your program
That's right. Yeah.
um, to do that, and to an amazing extent. Now we are also starting to see you as a program and our project together have attracted a couple of other institutions participation and involvement with these now, and
That's
this is
great.
really just what a wonderful thing. And Kate, I just want to say thank you so much for doing that, and thank you for being such an amazing steward um, for accessibility and the importance of it. And I think that was one of the first conversations that we had, actually, was,
Yeah.
we need to get accessibility going, and let's do this. And I remember how generous you were. You said, look, we have a great team, a great lab here, we can help, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that started an amazing partnership and a journey. So why don't I wanted to just thank you first, and then I let you go ahead and talk about that, because
Well,
it
let
is
me
really
return the
incredible.
compliment a little bit because, this is actually by way of something Mark said, which is how much he appreciates Digication's personal commitment. I mean, by personal, I mean you, Jeff Yan, your commitment as the person who's leading things in your company to make your product. Um, Accessible and to be open to the kind of collaboration that we have grown here. Um, Illinois has a long history with being a leader in accessibility. We started out our accessibility, our disability resource center kind of began um, in the 1950s. um, we had a pioneer here who was, a returning veteran, and he saw a lot of other veterans with disabilities that wanted to take advantage of the GI Bill, but a lot of the barriers in those days were physical, right? You just couldn't physically get in if you were in a wheelchair, for instance. But he started this, by the way, he was also a pioneer in creating wheelchair basketball and the whole um, this whole bunch of sporting events, wheelchair athletics, and athletics for people with disabilities. I mean, he was a pioneer in that. And we've had a number of Special Olympians come out of the University of Illinois, and it's a big priority in our state government, that we take it very seriously. And so there's a consensus at Illinois that we want things to be completely accessible. It's a process. You don't ever get to 100% accessibility. You just keep chipping away at the
Mhm.
inaccessibility and getting rid of it, because
Right.
there's so many different disabilities. For one thing, there's so many people are so different. For instance, cognitive disabilities are something that we're only just starting to figure out ways of dealing with and making education more accessible to people with those kinds of disabilities. But because we've had that long history of the value for accessible resources, we have people like Mark Thompson, who is actually at the Center for Innovation in Teaching and Learning. He doesn't work for the Disability Resources Group, um, but he is personally very dedicated to it. And his role at CETL is he's the director of the instructional design group. So he has a lot of influence, and so they foreground accessibility when they work with instructors. And Mark has, he devotes a lot of time to working with the DRESS people, disability resources people, and some of these students that they hire, and um, just like you can count on Mark to remind you that, yep, keep it accessible. you know, he's he's a squeaky wheel, and we love it. we need
And
that,
he's also the nicest guy,
He is.
and
He's great to work with. He's a
and
wonderful
a great
colleague.
teacher.
Yeah. Is he? Okay, see, I haven't had that experience, but
Mhm,
I'm not surprised to
mhm.
hear that he's a great teacher.
Yeah,
Did you go to any of
yeah.
his classes?
I, well, I haven't taken the class myself yet, but the engineers who have done so absolutely loved it. And
Yeah.
in fact, some of our engineers, maybe when they were at school, I mean at college, it was a while ago, and the teaching methods and stuff are a little different now. And when
Yeah.
they went to Mark and his colleagues classes, they were like, oh wow, we work at Digication, we know about all these teaching philosophies that you talk about, but I never experienced it myself, because when I
Yeah.
went to school it wasn't like this. And but now I see what you guys have been talking about this whole time.
Yeah, well, one of
Like
the
this
what
is a
we
class that puts us first.
right, exactly. And
Yeah.
you might expect that a course that's designed by the lead instructional designer is going to be really well
Mhm.
designed,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's still amazing that that it 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 really works. I mean, the course is getting a lot of positive feedback from students that it's they're learning what they want to learn, and they're enjoying the experience, and they feel like they're successful, and that's what you want.
I feel like that we need to do a little plug on this course itself, so that people who
Okay,
might be
let's
listening
do that.
can know what it is. Can you tell us about the course, or do you
I
have
you
a
know
you know?
that's the thing. I'm not really. I haven't taken the course, but let me see if I can call something up on my browser here so that I can make sure I get it right.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah, okay, so this is the from the Department of Information, Accessibility, Design, and Policy is the program. So this is out of the College of Applied Health Science, College of Applied Health Sciences, and it's a certificate program, and I think there are um, 3 courses. Wait a second
Yeah, there are
here.
3 courses, and then
Three
you get the
courses,
certificate at the
right?
end. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a
I
total
think it's
of
about a 9 month course. Yeah, I mean, at Digication, we've been so impressed that we sponsor every one of our engineers. If they wish to take this, they can, and they are.
that's
So
great.
it's a
Do
wonderful
you
thing, and it is actually even approved by the IAAP, which is
mhm.
called which is the, let me look, it's International Association for Accessibility Professionals. And so uh, from what our engineers have described, there are all kinds of people there. There are people working for like big companies. It could be from Google, it could be from wherever, and they are there to get these instructions. And one of the best things about it is that, and this is from our engineers, who would say it's not all about engineering, that it is of course, some parts of it is about engineering and like, hey, what are the
Right.
methods to make something more accessible? But actually, a large part of the course is to understand what accessibility is. So, like
Yeah.
what you were saying, um, cognitive accessibility is just we're just scratching the surface right now. But
Yeah.
like a lot of people that do web accessibility stuff, all they're talking about is do you have an alt tag on an image? Yeah, that's okay. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
that's something that we should do, but
Yeah, but
that's
it may
just
not
a
even be a good
tiny, tiny
alt
bit.
tag,
Yeah, it's
right?
just a
We
tiny
see
bit of it.
we see a lot of
Right,
instructors who write their alt tag and you read it and you say, "This is the same thing that's in the caption." You know,
right,
why are you
right,
wasting their screen reader time putting in
right,
something that's already in the caption that they're going to
right.
read anyway?
Exactly. And so that's actually what our engineers are saying is that
Yeah.
it's not just covering like how do you make something compliant. You get to
Mhm.
understand, oh, we designed this thing here, and when like so recently I just was like for example someone was saying we were designing a new feature, and there was an element in the screen that has a little drop down menu, right? The drop down menu sets what it is, and and
Mhm.
you basically click on it, you see the options, sort of not a big deal. And but the one of the folks that have taken the course had said, "Now we need to label this in a way that the drop down itself needs this, needs a label, and because while they're even searching, like clicking on it, they need to know what
Mhm.
it is that they're, what type
Right.
of information are they supposed to be searching for." And then you know another person had said, "But why? Because you're already there. You just got there. You just read the label that was from, outside of this box, etc." And the screen reader already can see this. Of course, they were thinking about a screen reader, and this person said, "Well, no, because cognitively, you could have a person that has short-term memory or who has ADHD, um, and they clicked on it, but something happened, and they already forgot why they were here, right? And so we need to be able to provide the information. I think this is what makes people. It's the principle of it that allows them to
Yeah.
go, oh, right. So as soon as that got brought up, that brought up the game of all of the designers, because they are now
Yep.
looking at it and be like, okay, we need to be able to do this, right? And so
Yeah.
for our engineers, they are, you know, you know, actually the just like putting in the label, that's so easy. Sure, if you
Yeah.
we need to put in the label, that we'll just put in the label. That's not a big deal, right? it's
Right.
it's the idea of why are we doing it, and what other things might we consider, and then you have to use a lot of empathy and a lot of intelligence to sort of think through these questions and problems, and then you come up with something accessible.
Yep. You
So
know,
that's like kudos for this
even
course.
ev
It's amazing.
even Apple doesn't get it right. I have a family member with ADHD, and I'm very aware of the struggles that she has with just like um in fact, she's pretty much given up on technology because um it's so much of what's on the internet, for instance, is designed to distract you. Well, these are people who you want to try, you don't want them
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
distracted. You want them to,
yeah,
like, you want to take away all distractions. And that's not for everybody. That's, for people who don't have that issue, it should, it's fine if it is the way it is, but these people should have a choice to go into a non-distraction mode or something so that they can actually function there. And then you also have things like I mentioned Apple, just because one of the things that annoys me most about the iOS interface is if you look at, for instance, if you go to write a message and you want to record your voice, you want to dictate to Siri, right? There's one little microphone down by one
mhm,
button down
yep, yep,
here, right? But if
yep,
you go to the message field, there's a button that has an almost identical icon. It looks the same. It's got a little
Yeah.
microphone, and that's to record an actual voice file.
Right.
She's not going to remember which one is which or what she can expect
Yep.
from each of those, It's
Yep.
just a
Yep.
bad design. And I'm like, this is supposed to be Apple. This is supposed to be these great
Right.
designers.
Right.
And
And
yet it's
this is
been that
not
way
like
for
a tiny
years.
app. This is the
Right.
text app, right? This is a
Right.
message app. Right.
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 And
Yeah.
it's not a specialized learning technology that you'd find in a university. Rather, it's on a cell phone that everybody has. Everybody,
Right. Right. Literally billions of
cognitively
people use
impaired or
this.
not,
Right.
people
Right.
use
Right.
those, right? So
Mm,
yeah, it's a little pet peeve of
right.
mine.
Right.
Think
But
about
I
those
think this,
people.
but it is that attitude that I think both you and I have that makes us want to work together on these things. So
Yeah, it's
I
empathy.
think
It's
that's,
being able to see the
yeah,
world through the eyes of someone who has you know, a different way of being in the world than you do.
yeah. And you have even created um, a a web page to teach students how to create accessible content
That was Mark's idea.
as well. Yeah, and those are all really amazing things that you all have done. And I must say that these are you know like we work with a good number of schools, and a lot of people have great um,
Mhm.
a lot of the schools have really great attributes, and I really do think that Illinois' special attributes, your special superpowers, is your willingness to. And I think even from going back to the top of our conversation, you were talking about how the schools, even though as a very serious research institution, you're willing to put a lot of efforts and emphasis
Yeah,
into
undergraduate teaching, yeah.
making do undergraduate teaching into student services,
Mhm.
into making that a priority. And I
Yeah,
think that and it really does show. It's also the people that you hire and you attract. I mean, I've met
exactly.
so many people there, um, you know many of them introduced by you, but they've been amazing for
Yeah.
probably for a lot of the same reasons.
Yeah, I think the values here at the University of Illinois are what attract a group of people, and then that just becomes part of the culture. And so, I just the other day, I attended a seminar on our global outreach vision. I'm not sure I'm using the right combination of words here, but we have a plan of like global involvement. Right. So there's a number of components of it. Study abroad is one component, but there's also like research linkages between the university and other institutions around the world. And then there's the foreign students who come here. And one of the things that they talked about as being a priority is getting a larger representation from the global south, you know, because just like so many universities, a large percentage of our uh, foreign students are from Asia, and that's fine, but it's way heavily weighted, for that one region, and yet there's almost nothing coming. We get very few students from sub-Saharan Africa, and that is what their one of their priorities is now. Increase the diversity of the people in these uh, global exchange programs. And I think that's the right set of values. I think that bias towards inclusivity is what we have going here, and I think it's the right way to go.
Well, I think that is really lovely. Well, hey, listen, that's I feel like I can talk to you forever, and maybe we should talk again, in
Huh?
the coming, seasons, and maybe we can, talk about these things in different contexts as well.
Hmm.
But I really appreciate you taking time to share everything today. And I have no doubt that our collaboration will continue to sort of grow, and I know that there is at least a couple more institutions are already saying, hey, they're participating in interesting and unexpected ways because of the work that you've done, and
Well, thank you.
I just really love that, and I hope that we continue to be able to do that. And hey, say hi to your friends and our friends at
Okay,
Illinois,
I will.
and I hope that we can talk again soon.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay, thank you, Kate.
Digication Scholars Conversations is brought to you by Digication, a technology platform powering the most innovative ePortfolio programs in K-12 and higher education. Our website can be found at digication.com. This episode was produced by Drew Albanesius and Jeff Yan. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please like, subscribe, and share with a friend. Thanks for watching.